Welcome to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast about quilting, but also entrepreneurship and copyright and pretty much anything we can think of that we want to talk about. This is our 2023 season, and I'm Elizabeth Townsend Guard. I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School, and I, of course, just want to quilt. So today, our guest is Cheryl Sleboda Whited, who is, many of our people listening to this podcast know, is someone who's very influential and a voice in the quilting community. Her focus has been on building businesses online, and now she is about to build her own brick and mortar business called Muppin Sewing Emporium in Paducah, Kentucky. Now, if anyone listening doesn't know what that means, it means that she's in like one of the main places in the country for quilting because of the National Quilt Museum. And she has just purchased a building, and she and her husband are building a new brick and mortar business based off of their online business. And we are talking to her both just before she opened, and then a couple of days after. And so we will be following her progress on what she's learning as part of this podcast. So here we go. Here's Cheryl. Okay, so you know the drill. Tell me your name, which I know, and where you're calling from.
I am Cheryl Sleboda Whited, and I'm in Paducah, Kentucky.
Okay, so there's a lot that, like, usually just your name and where you're located is pretty simple, but you've added a name and you're in a very different location than you used to be outside of Chicago.
Yes.
So
yes, in
we have a lot,
Plainfield, Illinois.
Indeed. And so we've got a lot to catch up on.
Yes, we do.
So for those of you who don't know, Cheryl's been on the show a number of times, so you could go and take a look at her earlier episodes. And one of the things I adore about Cheryl is that when I first started this project in 2017, hard to believe,
Wow.
Cheryl and I spent a lot of time together, and she really was helpful in helping me to understand what this world was in ways. And so I think I always sort of am grateful for those conversations, because you really know what you're doing, and you really had a lot of thoughts about all of it. And I came to really trust and care about your voice.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
It means a lot. So, all right. So let's go back. What should we go back to? Let's go back to 2019. Let's start there. 2019, so everything's moving along. That's kind of where we're starting with our guests, right? So we'll do a quick recap, because last time I did this, it spent the whole time talking about like what happened. So 2019, we're all fine. Everything's normal.
Yes.
Right.
I think was that the year I went to your Tulane conference about copyright.
It's true. You did.
That feels like a lifetime ago.
It was a lifetime ago. It really was. That was in April of 2019. Yes. We invited you to this big deal conference, you and Mary Fons and Scott Fortunoff, and it was awesome. And then we had a sewing day, which people are still talking about around my parts of the world, with you and Andy Barney and locals, and it was fantastic. Okay, so that was all a thing, right? That was big, and it was awesome, and it was so much fun. And oh my gosh, there was a lot. That was like a very
that was a busy year too.
Yeah.
We did so much that year, and then
everything was hopping, right? Things were going.
It like business was firing on all cylinders, and then
right.
I was in a show in March. It was in
2020. Now we did, everything was fine, everything was great, everything was
2020 hits.
It was lovely.
Yeah.
And 2020 hits, and what happens?
So March of that year, I was in Atlanta at a show, and the show was on Friday. There were talks like, oh, we might be shutting down on Saturday we shut down. And then Sunday there was no show. So yeah, we had all set up and we were all told,
Stop.
go home.
Yeah, the abruptness of the shutting down of the world was so shocking. It was crazy. It was same with Tulane. We taught on Wednesday, and the students were on planes gone by Friday.
Yeah.
It was like this crazy, like I'm getting my dates wrong, but it was just like, it was bizarre. And I remember when the Lakers playing, and somebody had COVID on the Lakers team, and they stopped the game. Like they weren't going to play the game. Right. And I thought the world is ending. Like, I mean, there was this notion of like,
right. So then, and then like in the quilt industry just kind of was like frozen for a hot minute because nobody knew what to do.
Right? Crazy weird. And then all the mask making started, and people was sewing, getting like, it was just this frenzy of weirdness that occurred. But no shows. And your world really, like, you're a teacher, you're a vendor. Your livelihood depends on being out on the road doing things.
And it came to a screeching halt. Like there were guilds that had me booked, and they were like, okay, well, we want to cancel. And I'm like, okay, well, my contract covers that. And they were like, we're not paying.
Right.
And they just refused to pay. And I was like, right, well, it's like act of God and all these things. And it's here, it's in the contract. And they're like, yeah, no, we're not, you're just not doing it.
Right.
And so that was really super eye-opening, was to have your whole business like grind to a screeching halt. Now, I guess I was lucky in that I had been doing I had taught online before. I had done meetings and things online before. So none of that was foreign to me, but it was really, really foreign to everyone else. And so my pandemic pivot was to B2B, and was to help out everybody else learn how to teach and do Zoom and
it was this incredible, I mean, we all know this, but like the technology shift and it came in big ways. And I think it's a kind of, do you feel like it stayed? Do you feel like
no? I feel like this is we made incredible strides in the quilt industry. We got this far, and then they were like, really, like, as soon as they could drop that stuff, they did. Now there are teachers who are still teaching via Zoom, and there's quilt guilds that are still doing classes via Zoom, because in a lot of ways it woke them up to, oh, hey, there was a cheaper way, a less expensive way than bringing in a teacher with all the expenses.
Yeah, right. Efficient. Some of the members want that. You can add it as a thing. Yeah, but it's not, there's a kind of return to being, humans want to see other humans, it seems like.
And I get that. It's just, we were so quick to drop all that technology and all the strides that we made. And, there's so much room for hybrid. There's so much room for hybrid, but
it's so funny that you say that, because our school, like, we went all online, then we weren't online. We're finally back to, because I'm traveling right now, and they were like, oh, well, you can teach a third of your class online. It was like, oh, okay, but that makes a lot of sense, right? So I think there's a sense of like, there was like forced online, then we were like against online. So I'll be interested to see if there's a kind of like moving to a medium level of like, I don't know.
Yeah. So, just recently I went to a quilt show, and I was there as a vendor, but one of the, and I pay attention to the social media, posts about shows before I go. I just want to know what the sense of, what are the students asking for? What are the customers asking for? And one of the things was, we really wish you would do some online classes along with these in-person classes, because they have like that component was completely dropped.
Really.
And you have so many customers who cannot travel, cannot get to where you are,
and just still don't feel safe being out in the world. So they feel like they got used to being that whole disabilities community thing, which I totally loved, which was we were all disabled for a while, where everybody couldn't go out, couldn't do things, and it was like you were part of the world. Interesting. Okay,
so felt like that's just one of the things that we dropped, that we could pick up that ball and still run with
it. I hope we do. I think that would be good. I really do. I think, although it's funny because I also feel like there is a fatigue about it's a fatigue of like life is exhausting. Like I think it's a fatigue of like traveling is exhausting, being online is exhausting, feeling like you're not part of things is exhausting. I don't think there's any
like everything is I feel like everything's just designed to run you out of energy. And,
I think so too.
Yeah, I think you're like a battery that's always depleting.
Indeed, always at 9%.
I like the phone that can never be fully charged again.
Indeed. And when you are, you're just like so shocked that you're not tired. You don't know what to do.
I don't know. I don't think I've felt that in a long time.
Okay. So everything shuts down. You go online. You help people with online. Then sort of what happens next? Because you're not outside of Chicago, and you've got another.
So I'm spending so in December of 2019, my online boyfriend becomes becomes very serious. And in December 2019, he moves in with me in Chicago, and that
is so amazing when you think about it. Can you imagine, like, your life would be so different if that hadn't happened, because lockdown happens only 3 months later, right?
Yep. So this guy comes, across the country to live in Chicago, and then Chicago shuts down, and we're trapped in the house together all day long. And he was working in a hospital, and we were about to get his son was about to come stay with us for the summer. And with all of the virus and everything, and we didn't know what we know now, but I said, why don't you just leave the hospital, come stay home, spend the summer with Max. I got this. We got this. Come work for the business. And so that's kind of how that all started there too. He left the hospital. He came to work for us, and now, so then we got married on 10/10/2020.
Oh, that's really great. That's a great date.
And that was like after our first like whole summer together, and we knew it was so we decided. So we got married with like 50 other couples, masked in a one at a time in front of a judge.
Wow.
Courthouse.
That's really cool. I think that's very cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's really cool.
And then, we kind of tried to settle into, the new normal, because we didn't know when anything was going to open back up, and kept hearing October, November, December, January, and it was just like, we kept kicking that can down the road, and it kept, when are we going to go back to shows? When are we going to get back to travel? And we pivoted again. So we had felt like we had done enough to help B2B. So then it was a focus on our own customers. And we launched so many products that following year. 2021 was absolutely off the charts as far as like templates. And I started writing a book, and we just kept going and going and going. And we did an heirloom sewing technique of the month subscription box. And that we had to come up with a new product every month for that. So that